Hang on. I'm going to record this. Okay. All right. I'm debating with Prisoner. I said Prisoner is the world's biggest advocate on the real name thing.
I'm hardly the world's biggest advocate, but okay, I'll take the title for the moment.
All right, Prisoner is the world. Let me restate. Prisoner is a prominent advocate, an articulate spokesman for the group of folks who are upset with the real name policy. And I see his point. I see Google's point. His name is not really Prisoner, and he has not been incarcerated. But it's they have this strongly held view, and I made a flippant comment that how can you overthrow Egypt if you have to use your real name? You'll have to overthrow Egypt with Facebook again. And he said that was.
You know what I think you're doing right now?
Huh?
The lack of clarity as to the First Amendment, because when the forefathers wrote that, there was absolutely no way they could have anticipated what the internet is. And what that is going to cause, what that already has caused, and what that will make bigger is, I think, tension between the government and the people.
It sounds like I keep disagreeing with everything everybody's saying. I think they did anticipate that. I think if you look at the First Amendment and you look at how some of what went into the First Amendment and what some of the Founding Fathers had experienced going into the First Amendment, you would see that they really did feel, at least on some level, they did anticipate that technology and communications technology were not just important, but critically important to the foundation of the nation, to the incorporation of government, to how things were going to work. I mean, it's not just in the first. Well, but I mean, what you just said, and maybe I misunderstood you. I apologize. You just said that they couldn't have anticipated the internet, and I'm saying, well, in a way, they did anticipate it.
I don't think they could have anticipated how radicalized speech would become via the internet, via the power that it gives us.
Don't existing laws take care of that? I mean, if I advocate murder or some crazy thing like that, then existing laws. I don't think it's any more radical. I think it's just more amplified, more accessible. In the past, before the internet or television or radio, you'd have to go to a Klan meeting to meet racists. You could, but now you can just go to a website and exchange ideas on that level. I mean, isn't it just more of a megaphone than a change in the actual content?
I don't mean it's inciting people to have more radical views. I just mean the capabilities that it gives us are much greater. The classic example, snail mail versus email. That's what I mean by radicalized.
I think it's best the way they do it. When they wrote the Constitution, they were so vague. Like, the right of freedom of speech shall not be infringed.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever they got specific, they got in trouble. Like with the Second Amendment, a well-armed militia being necessary to protect the people. I'm paraphrasing. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And at the time, they had militias, and so now there's this the anti-gun rights people and the pro-gun rights people argue over that point. So the more vague they get it, the right, you have the right to freedom of speech, which now a federal appeals court in Massachusetts has said that means that if I hold up my cell phone and I videotape a cop, that that any law wouldn't apply that says I can't make an audio recording without someone's consent, because they said it's obviously that freedom of speech issue, even though cell phones didn't exist, audio recordings didn't exist. A lot of it is up to the Supreme Court to determine based on practical application and the intent. And you've got some of the guys on the right who are what they call originalists, in that they believe in whatever the ironically, one of them is an African American, and of course when they wrote the Constitution of the United States, it was by a bunch of slave owners. So I guess it's odd that he would be an originalist so strictly. But I would say that it's up to the interpretation of the courts as new technology comes on, and it should be necessarily vague.
Well, but I think they've also gave us a lot of interesting specifics. I mean, if you look at the Constitution itself, they anticipated and empowered Congress to deal with technological change. They empowered Congress to deal with communication in the most technology, in the best technology they had at the time. They empowered Congress to require it nationwide. These are, radical things for the time. These were men who I think did understand that communication specifically was very empowering. They knew just how empowering communication was, and I think they knew. I think they knew how that communication was going to change and evolve in the future, and they wanted to make sure that the government was part of it. Oddly enough.
Go ahead, Antonio.
Well, I don't disagree with what you said. I kind of lost for words right now.
Well, we can take this up in a thread. We can take this up in a thread later. I don't have a problem with that.
I love this. This is like I'm gonna tag this as Google Plus bonus because I recorded this part. So I've got now 3 parts. I don't know if I want to string it all together in a single thing or put up parts because I don't know. I'll figure it out. But guys, I appreciate it. Antonio, I don't know how you stay so skinny being Italian and eating pasta. But I'm very jealous and Prisoner, as always, you're awesome, and I thank you so much for the time you put in before and during the show, and I love even though I pick on you about your animated opinions, so forcefully held and so articulated, I really appreciate you being part of the program. You're awesome. You're great, and I thank
always fun to be part of the program when I can.
When you can. We'll take you when we can get you. All right, to the voyeurs who are still sticking around in Justin TV / me, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And hopefully I will figure out, it'll probably be 3 parts. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the bonus and then the second part and then the first part. So the first one's on the front over the weekend. So you'll see them in a weird order if you actually follow the YouTube channel. But anyway, thanks so much. This has been an extra bonus at no cost. Section of Google. What do we call this? Google Plus Post? I don't know. The green room.
Google Plus Plus.
Google Plus Plus. There you go. Like C++. And last question for I was an old for Priz because you're a developer. Do you do database stuff?
When I have to, yeah.
Okay, so you're obviously an enthusiast. Just kidding. But if real quick, and I was an old FoxPro programmer. I taught, yeah, back in the olden days when I was young, tall, skinny, and I actually I used to teach Pascal and BASIC to middle and mainly high school students, and then I coded at Deltek Systems in McLean, a government contractor. They wrote accounting software specifically for government contractors, and I worked with FoxPro, and so, which of course is a D-base dialect, an extension of that. So if I wanted to do a database up, I mean, I could do it in my sleep in FoxPro, no problem, but I don't know what's modern, and I don't want to spend $1 million if I want to play around. Should I was thinking just doing MySQL and PHP. What should I do?
Well, it depends exactly what you're looking to do it for. If you really just want a database to manage stuff, MySQL is fine. I never suggest PHP because I think PHP is a disaster, but that's a
well, I mean, PHP is a way
personal opinion
to do if I wanted, let's say I wanted to do, really the application is for my newspapers, and I'm looking at a program now called Magazine Manager, but it's pretty expensive, and they have it's like $300 or $400 a month, and then they have training is $150 an hour. And I said, that's $260,000 a year. That's more than the vice president makes, I think. And she's like, well, they don't work all week. And I said, okay. And then the setup is $500 or something plus $20 a field for import. And all. I was like, whoa, But it's a very good program. But we have unique needs. We have a CRM, right, customer relations management, and then you have letting the layout people know what ads to put in the paper. And then
which CRM do you use?
None. We have we have a functioning
Rolodex.
We have a functioning non-system. It's a disaster, and anyway, so I'm trying to come up with something. I was thinking about developing something simple to basically be a salesperson could put the basic information for the client, and then they could put in a database and schedule an ad for the client. Say it's this size and it's going in for this cost and it's going in this issue, and then the layout guy knows. He looks at a screen that says everything going in this issue are these 112 ads, and that if it ain't in there, it ain't going in, right? And that forces the salespeople to put it in the system. But then I'm thinking, maybe it's well worth $300 a month to not have to try to develop that. But I was just wondering if I were to do something like that, you would want it to be accessible via the web so that the salespeople can be anywhere. You have multiple users.
Let me put this to you this way quickly. If how much would you be able to think about this as you're putting my picture on now?
Well, you're talking. In case someone's watching, I just want them to know who's talking.
How much would you think of this as a spreadsheet?
I thought about that, but then you've got levels, and you've got repeated issues, and you want to be able to track what's done. The more I describe it, the more I'm insane to even think I have time to do this. But I was just curious if I wanted to come up with something just for fun, and only you and I would understand, because we're geeks, only you and I would understand that it could actually be fun to develop a database. For whatever, I don't know, just come up with something. But I'm just curious what platform to use, because the FoxPro is no more. I mean, it is, but it's not modern technology.
Yeah, I mean, for what you want, maybe you would look at something like Access, but nobody really considers Access more than a toy these days. Yeah, you could do MySQL, that's fine. PHP, I think, is a nightmare. I'm not really sure you want to get, you want to go in that direction. Honestly, in some ways, I would almost recommend that you look at what Google Docs has to offer.
Man, if they had a database, I would be all over it. I would be all excited.
Well, it depends what you mean by a database.
I mean a database where everything's in one place, and you can. A spreadsheet is two-dimensional. I want a three-dimensional. I mean, if you had something like that, where like I said, I'm an old X-base guy, right? So I'm used to my tables, and you would have customer name, and you'd have.
So you're looking for real relations.
Yeah, I'm looking for relations.
You're looking for a real relational database.
I'm looking for relational database. I'm looking to be able to follow the cardinal rule of no duplicate data entry. Right now we have 4 or 5 instances. I mean, the salesperson sells the ad, so she has her own system, because I don't want to spend $80 with Salesforce when it takes you 15 salespeople to find a good one, right? I have 2 awesome salespeople, really good. And I've hired 30 others to get the 2. And I've had some other great ones too, but I have 2 great ones. And then so they have whatever system they use, which is index cards or their email contact list, whatever. And then layout gets stuff, and then they email billing, the wonderful billing lady. She gets an email that I have new client, Joe's Barbecue Shack, 123 Main Street, and then she puts it into QuickBooks Online, which is great and sucks at the same time, but that's a whole different discussion. And so now we have the salesperson has the data, the layout's got separate data, the billing person has separate data, and I don't have any metrics. I have no metrics to know, unless I go through and write stuff down, okay, it looks like we deposited this much last month. I mean, it's a disaster. And QuickBooks is just such a pain. Unless you have, a QuickBooks guru to set it up correctly, and then I don't know. I'm thinking about getting a standalone product anyway, and dumping the online thing. But that's basically the disaster I have, and you can't do that. You can't do that.
Hey guys, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
I got to run.
Antonio, you're great.
Truly
Thanks.
a pleasure, and I look forward to future conversation.
Awesome. I'm sorry we have totally bored you to tears, probably.
No, it's okay. Take it easy, okay?
Go have a Chianti
care,
or
Antonio.
something. You'll be good. Thank you,
Sorry?
buddy. I said go have some Chianti or something. You'll be good after this boring conversation. I'm sorry.
I'm about to go see a band with some friends.
Oh, that's awesome. It is Friday night.
Yeah. Yep, it is. Almost forgot that part, huh?
Don't get too crazy.
No, I'm not going to. Don't worry. All right. Take it easy.
Thanks, Antonio. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Bye.
But there are limitations to a spreadsheet, right? I mean, it's
sure.
different.
There are limitations to a relational database.
Yeah, like learning curve.
Well, I mean that's part of it. Yes, you could go with MySQL, you could go with PHP, and then you get to learn how to set up a web server on. You're probably running Windows, right?
Yes.
So you get to learn the excitement of trying to get that working under Windows. You get to want to make sure you want to put in good security, and it is a lot of work. I do this professionally, and I'm not trying to sell myself here, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't think I have time. I think I just need to buy this lady's program. She's a nice lady. It just is like $150 an hour. I mean, that's like hiring Britney Spears or something if you're going to pay that kind of money. $150 an hour. But that was an exaggeration. But yeah, okay. I think
I don't know. I mean, I'm again, it really depends what you want. The thing that I like about where Google's gone with some of what they've done with spreadsheets is that they've got what they call Google Forms, which gives you lets you design a very nice front end so that your people who are entering the data can enter it using a form and not using a spreadsheet, and it ends up in the spreadsheet. And how much of that you can pull from other spreadsheets, so you can pull the client number. I don't know. It depends on how complicated you want to get, but something like Google Forms, Google Docs will give you the security, will give you permissioning, will give you some basic table structures. If if what you're looking for is more complex than a couple of spreadsheets that have associations with each other, yeah, you're going to need more.
Yeah,
if that's really all you want, maybe it's enough.
It's a toss-up. With if I do a very ghetto thing in Google Docs, right, I have complete control. It's a lot of time, but I have control. Just like I wrote a computer game in '93, and I did it in Pascal, and I used assembler libraries for the graphics. I had complete control over everything. It was awesome. And then the more higher level you get, it's easier and much, much quicker, and you surrender control. Like FoxPro is pretty high level, or was for its day, and then you're on the phone trying to ask a question. Whereas the more lower level you get, I don't know. It's a compromise. It's like, and then it's just like, what? Screw it. I'm just going to pay $300 a month, and I'm going to pay $1,500 to get it started, and then I'm just going to knock on wood and hope that this thing, that I'm not going to have something I can't do with it that makes me regret that decision, So I just got to do my homework ahead of time.
I get customers all the time who are, they'll come to us and they'll say, hey, we want a website that does X, Y, and Z. And we'll say, well, we can give you X and Y, that's right out of the box, but if you want Z, we're going to have to develop Z.
It's like,
and if you want us to develop it, you're going to have to pay for it.
It's like someone goes into a restaurant and says, I want my lunch, I want it good, fast, and cheap. And the waiter says,
pick 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I can help you with any 2 of those things. Yeah, and what I need is a website for this show. But then I don't know if it's going to continue to be Google Plus Week or merge into Google Week or Tech Week as Google Plus matures and gets out of beta at some point, So I don't know what to do. I'm just procrastinating on that. But it would be neat to have a site where we could have show notes, like what Leo does. Leo's great. Twit.tv, and they've got it's in Drupal. Because Dvorak, when I first did my first website, before I started my first newspaper, I asked John Dvorak, or John C. Dvorak, who did not invent the Dvorak keyboard. He keeps getting blamed for that. I asked him, and he said that Leo was using Drupal, and I'd never heard of Drupal. So I checked it out, and I used it for my first site. It was a bit of a big learning curve, but very powerful software. And I've since moved on. I think I have one site remaining. That's Drupal, but basically I'm on WordPress.org or WordPress.com.
I was going to ask if you were using WordPress. That seemed more likely for what you were doing.
Yeah, but I'm looking at I love the information that's on there. I love the information Leo has, and I'm trying to figure out if I should just, I'm trying to decide, do I want, right now, I don't really have a site for any of the shows. I have McDermott Report, but I don't update it enough, and I hate that. But I'm trying to decide if I want to come up with some kind of name, because I have a TV reporter who's going to come in and hopefully be joining us. She's coming off contract from 3 years at a TV station, and she's a reporter and anchor. And I know about the streaming side of it, but she works, and I used to be a radio talk show host and a newscaster in the radio since the 80s, so I know that, but I've never worked in television broadcasting as far as like mainstream, channel whatever. And so that's her background, and she's a pro. She's really good and really smart, and so hopefully we'll be working together and when she comes back. So, but I'm trying to decide, do I want to come up with some kind of network name like Leo has Twit or whatever for these different programs. I'm also going to be doing some local programs, right? Because I'm getting ready to do something like Warren County Week about Front Royal and Warren County, where I have my main newspaper.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm going to do some local stuff. But then if I put that on the channel, because most of the people who look at that YouTube channel are expecting either the McDermott Report, which is the earlier in the week news show about the day's news, or the Google Plus Week. And so I'm trying to figure all this out as we develop into more programming content. But I got.
Well, I think like everything else, it's content is king, and you got to figure out what you want your content to be.
Yeah.
And that drives how you market it.
Yeah,
but I don't need to
learning
tell you that.
experience as you go. That's why I'm doing this. I mean, it's not really. This is not, NBC quality stuff, but it's pretty good for a podcast. And I figured the more you do it, the better you get. The only way to get good at something is to get good at it. If you look at your best talk show hosts, like on the right, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, and then on the left, Rachel Maddow or some of these guys on NPR, PBS. Those guys are, to one degree, they're born because they have the aptitude, and no matter how good I ever get from training, I will never be as good as those guys. But they're much better today than they were when they started. Leo Laporte will tell you he was terrible when he started. I don't have any evidence of that, but I mean, it takes years of doing it, and you get better and better as you learn and go. So.
No, don't I know it? I mean, I still, I don't know if you remember. You remember when Larry King was on the radio?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to listen to him all the time. I actually finally remember getting the nerve to call up one evening, and I totally flubbed it. Totally flubbed it. And, the first time I called you, I was expecting to totally flub our conversation. But, in the, 20 years or whatever since I first called Larry, I've gotten a little better at it. So, yeah, of course it's practice.
Yeah, it's funny. People get nervous, and I'm like, it's totally cool, man. This is casual, We're just hanging out. Don't get nervous. But people get nervous if they're not.
You're the one wearing the tie, Dan.
Yeah. And I try to keep it, family friendly, even when Bowie comes on. I always warn him, Bowie, don't cuss. Over in Vancouver. All right, we should tie it up. Thank you so much, Priz. I appreciate it, all the work you do, and you're being a good guy and keeping the show going for us.
Always fun to be a part of it. Next week, I'm not sure I'll be able to log on until late, but hopefully I'll be able to get on.
Awesome, and I appreciate the free tech support and advice as I pursue my creating my own hackable data cloud.
Good luck with that.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so that's it. That is the bonus edition of Google Plus and totally unrelated topics. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you. Google Plus Week is next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 Pacific, midnight GMT. Have a good one.